I come to, I find myself lying on a bed. Even before I opened my eyes, though, I knew. Still here, huh? Curling into a loose ball, I find the book I had picked out by my side. I run my fingers across the book's nameless binding. Its blank roughness corresponds. A world where nothing is unexpected and everything is defined by you. A universe of only one. I wonder, what if people were to God as dolls were to the girl? Dolls cannot act on their own, and the puppeteer that controls them can never be ignorant of what they would do, because on an intrinsic level, their actions are the puppeteers. In a similar vein, people can laugh, cry, and sing. But is their laughter and lamentations the product of their free will? Or is it all simply the dictation of an unseen script? Creating an existence other than your own and breathing life into it. Loving it with all your heart and giving it your everything. Yet no matter what you do, it will never be able to escape the intrinsic quality of being but an extension of your soul. The despair of knowing your creation can never possess free will or the capacity to grow on its own. It makes you question if you yourself have free will. It makes you question if even God has free will. For if omniscient entity knows everything, even about its own decisions in the future, does that not forbid free will to that entity? Perhaps free will doesn't truly exist. But even then, I think we should believe that it does. What do you think about it, Tubby? Musing to myself, I turned my gaze to the floor next to the bed. The book I had picked out for Tubby in the Celestial Library was laying there, with not a single page turned. What are you, a bumpkin? Don't doze off at the mere sight of a book. At least try to read some of it. When I blink and look again, Tubby's book, which had been on the first page, was suddenly on the last. You're not fooling anyone into thinking you read all of that in the blink of an eye. I'm quite conscious of the fact that everything in this exchange is merely part of the script that I've imagined. But spirited facades like these were important for keeping my sanity intact. I'm just like the girl in the story, aren't I? Life's most fundamental quality is that it subverts non-existence. Perhaps it could even be said that it was life's most intrinsic purpose to be something rather than nothing. Something, anything that defies nothingness, anything, everything that fills the world with color and movement. It was the most base and pure of impetus. A black canvas must be painted over, no matter what that means. But even the most beautiful canvases are as null as dust if not shared. I have a heavy sigh as I rest my head on my book. Being left alone here for so long with nothing but your own thoughts gnaws at you. Since I never got tired, and there was no night, the only thing to dictate when I slept was whim. Entry and exit from the golden dream didn't seem to have any rhyme or reason to it. There have been times where I awakened in the alternative after simply shutting my eyes for a bit. Good evening, Tubby. Mumbling something that wouldn't make sense anywhere else, I begin to doze off. As I'm fading away, for some reason, I'm struck with the inexplicable conviction that Tubby would make an amazing pillow. Tubby pillows for sale. Buy one, get one free. No refunds will be issued if for some odd reason your product has no actual physical form. The sound of chirping birds, A song that brings me release so sweet I feel my entire body going slack with relief. As my eyes adjust to the warm sunlight flowing through the window, I let out my breath so deep one would think that I had been holding it the entire night. A light breeze rustles the curtains, brushing against my cheek the way one would tenderly caress someone to ease them from their slumber. It's probably something few others would ever think about, but the air of the world we live in is alive. It's full of movement, weight, and subtle accents. There's a texture to it that the golden dreams ersatz air can never compare to. I'm back. The sights and sensations of the waking world fill me with a maddeningly familiar hunger, like the desire to gorge on the rich stimuli around me. Speaking of eating, something smells good. The appetizing aroma of breakfast being prepared tickled at my nose, prompting me to slip out of the comfort of my bed. After wrapping up my morning dailies, I descend to the stairs to the kitchen where a bowl of chicken congee already awaited me. Good morning, Aid. Did you have a restful night? Yes, it was golden. Holding up the OK sign, I blow furiously on a spoon of the hot rice porridge before guiding it into my mouth. Ah! I give it a little yelp as my tongue scorches from the unexpected heat. Careful, it's fresh out of the pot. Papa makes a troubled expression as he watches me squirm around my seat. But hot! Somehow, the pain was not unwelcome. This, too, was one of the tiny treasures of ordinary life after all. You seem to be in high spirits today, Aid. Something happened at school? Papa pushes a glass of water over to me as he prudently wafts his own chow. Once liberated from the congee's searing heat, I think back to the day before the golden dream. I believe we're having a bridge construction contest today. Ah, that would explain why you were collecting all those materials last night. Will you be able to carry that all to school, though? Seems a bit heavy. Do you doubt my strength? With a swaggering smile, I flex my legendary textbook-toting biceps. Ooh. Please, get Noletta to help you. I promptly finish eating my meal at the expense of my tongue's outer layers. Usually, I'm not too fond of Papa's cooking since he's rather conservative with what he makes. But for some reason, his homely chow congee was an exception. After washing up, I retrieve everything I need and go out to put on my shoes. Papa follows along to the door to see me off as he always does. It's okay if you don't win the contest, you know. Just try to have fun. Reaching down, he rubs the side of my head with the pads of his fingers. It was a familiar and comforting sensation, but somehow made me feel a little lonely. If I don't win, how will I ever realize my long-standing dream of becoming a master bridge builder? As if to escape that lonesome feeling, something facetious escapes my mouth. That's the first I've heard of such a dream. Papa gives a helpless sigh as he withdraws his hand. Take care, Aid. Stay safe. Bye, Papa. See you later. Running out to behold the clear blue sky in the morning was the best way to start the day. But that's not to say I don't love running out to an overcast sky. A rainy sky, a misty sky, a windy sky, a snowy sky, they were all lovely. They were all the best. I find her at the edge of the sprawling green field that makes up our property, a figure so still they seem to blend into every landscape. Good morning, Aid. Her rubescent eyes fixate on me as she greets me with a blank expression. Wrong. Reaching out with both index fingers, I push the corners of her mouth up. Greetings should be done with a smile. Noletta inclines her head, causing her snow-white hair to tickle my wrists. Goop moming aid. A giggle escapes me when Noletta tries again with an oddly charming smile I've shaped with my fingers. Good morning, Noletta. I beam a big smile at her to drive my point home. Noletta Rue, a girl shrouded in mystery to the point where even her age was unknown. She was clearly older than me, though, with an apprentice or an appearance that suggested around 14 or 15 if I had to guess. Despite that, she was very innocent, alarmingly so, in fact. One time, we sent her on an errand at the bakery she almost ended up stealing, utterly oblivious to the concept of exchanging currency for goods. That's why I like her so much, though. Her presence has the effect of making even the familiar and routine feel new and fresh, as if you were experiencing the world for the first time again. It's strangely liberating watching Noletta stare in awe at something as simple and mundane as someone kneading dough, for example. The world is full of ordinary treasures that lie unnoticed right before us, only we don't realize it unless it is framed in the eyes of another's innocence. Even now, Noletta was staring fixedly at the big bag of materials hanging from my back. Do you remember? We're supposed to bring the materials for a bridge construction project today. To build a bridge, you need materials. Noletta makes an expression of wonder as if the thought had never crossed her mind. I didn't bring materials. It's okay. I've got you covered. I brought enough for both of us. Thanks, Aid. It'll be tasty. Disjointed conversations like this, where it feels like you're not really on the same page with Noletta, aren't uncommon. But that's just because her way of thinking is unique. In this case, when I said, I brought enough for both of us, she probably immediately made an association with lunch. So food's on her mind right now, huh? A question. Vermicelli, friend. Is Brazal already off smelling the flowers? Noletta pauses and stares at me for the moment, before nodding. He went cooking with Mr. Damelier. Why am I silly? Wow, perfect score. While it may seem odd at first, Noletta's way of thinking is admirably fluid. Yes, something like this should be admired, shouldn't it? I knew you could do it. Yeah! Bouncing on my feet, I reach up and reward her with a happy head pat. Though it is slight, my praise draws a smile from her. Playing with Noletta is the best. It's fun going along with her train of thoughts. Anyhow, Brazal was Noletta's older brother. Both of the Brew siblings were quite unversed in the world for their age. It's something I've wondered about ever since they came to reside on our property around a year ago. Okay, let's go meet up with the others. I often think about it, though. Noletta's in a lower effective grade than me, despite being a fair deal older. It's true that my physical age reflects little due to the time I've spent in the Golden Dream. But if I'm ahead of my time because of the Golden Dream, for what reason could Noletta be behind hers? I study Noletta's expressions profile quietly as I walk by her side. Noletta! Addie! A voice that conjured the image of an excited puppy bounding up to you, its tail wagging, interrupts my scrutiny. Just when the voice's owner is about to spring on us, though, she suddenly freezes in place with a flustered expression. Oh no! I forgot to try out that trendy new surprise greeting that's all the rage nowadays. A bit late for that now. Don't look, Noletta. You didn't see me. Though she clearly doesn't follow, Noletta obediently complies with Lorena's instructions. All right. Romping behind her, Lorena throws her hands over Noletta's eyes. Who is it? Ah, it went dark. Guess who it is? Guess who it is? I don't know. Object permanence is something you develop when you're an infant, Noletta. I'll give you a hint, Noletta. It starts with an L and it ends with an A. Oh, and you love eating it. Starts with an L, ends with an A, and is yummy. Lasagna. What? Don't turn me into a pasta casserole. Lasagna. Paying Lorona no heed, Noletta takes hold of one of the hands covering her eyes and stuffs it in her mouth. Nom, 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 nom. Yeah, don't eat me. It's Lorona. Lorona, I tell you. Lorona flails in a panic as Noletta latches on with her teeth. Meet Lorona. Though she might strike you as the type of airhead that gets lost tottering after butterflies, she's quite a responsible, though not necessarily reliable individual. Despite being only 15, she is a talented textile artisan that helps support the orphanage she calls home with her earrings. It's a wonder she has... Don't just stand there narrating, do something, Addie. Any time to sweep between helping care for the children, her craft, and school. If I were to describe her in short title, it would be Unreliable Moral Compass. What kind of title is that? Doesn't taste like lasagna. After coming to the conclusion that Lorona was indeed not lasagna, Noletta finally lets go. Trying to eat people is bad, okay, Noletta? Okay. Anyways, good morning, lasagna. It's Lorona, not lasagna. You're confusing her, Addie. Good morning, lasagna. I'm having an identity crisis. There. I give lasagna a pat on the noggin as she curls up and cradles her head. If it makes you feel any better, you go pretty well with garlic bread. With sad sound like air escaping a balloon, lasagna deflates into the ground. Well, nothing to see here. Though Noletta seems curious about lasagna's newly acquired two-dimensional state, she follows after me as I make to leave the scene. Together, the two of us enjoy a nice, relaxing stroll to school. Don't just leave me behind! Jerks. As the three of us travel alongside the stream that winds towards our destination, we happen upon a dead wayfarer. Come on, Triss. Canoodle the ground some other time. A displeased girl could be seen impatiently tapping her foot beside the corpse in question. It was very easy to see why he had succumbed. An absurd amount of project gear was strapped to his back, enough that it practically buried his prone figure. Aw, poor Triss. You shouldn't rush him since he's carrying your stuff too, Kalia. He's just carrying my usual bag. The rest is junk. I told him to leave it behind. He always brings a bunch of garbage we never actually use whenever we have projects. Jeez. As Lorona begins liberating Triss from his burden, Noletta crouches down next to his body and stretches out her hand. Her hand halts as the body in question suddenly stirs and rises to its feet. It's alive. Watch out, Noletta, it's a zombie. Zombie? It's a reanimated corpse that likes eating people's brains. Trying to eat people is bad, Mr. Zombie. Faced with Noletta's inexplicable admonishment, Triss seems at a loss. Hope you enjoyed your nap. These two were the 11-year-old Lyrid twins, Kalia and Tristan. Though we make an effort to walk to school together, the Lyrids were habitually late. making today a rare occurrence where all 5 of us were present. As for why Triss was carrying Kalia's bag in addition to his own load, it was simple. Kalia had no arms to speak of, below the elbows. Wounds from the fire of collapse that befell 9 years ago. There were many in Socratine who bore similar disfigurations. Triss, as well, had not remained unscathed. The smoke from the prismatic flames that day had stripped him of his voice, rendering him mute. They were heavy scars, yet they never seemed to weigh down the Lyra twins. Always on the move, with new things happening in their presence all the time. It made me want to continue watching them, to see where they would go, and where they might take me. Wow, spring's really showing its full colors early this year. Wandering over the wayside willow, Lorona marvels at the bed of flowers nestled under the eaves. Aha! I know! Over here, Noletta. Lorona waves Noletta over after picking several flowers from a particularly bountiful patch. I'm going to teach you something nice, so listen up. Taking Noletta's hand in hers, Lorena threads a flower between her fingertips. One way to show people you care about them is to place a flower in their hair, like this. Gently handling Noletta's hand, Lorona guides the flower up through her carroty locks. Get it? After examining her newly changed appearance for a bit, Noletta nods. If you understand, then show me. Lorona entrusts the rest of the flowers to Noletta with a smile. After gazing at the flowers for a while, Noletta seems to come to some sort of conclusion. Kalia, Triss, I care about you. Oh, you don't have to listen to everything Lorona tells you, you know. In contrast to Kalia's flustered reaction, Triss expresses himself with heartfelt bow as if he had been graced by an angel. Guess it's my turn next. As Noletta reaches out with the last remaining flower, though, I'm cast with a spell of whimsy. At the last moment, I tilt my head to the side, causing her to miss. Noletta attempts to place the flower in my hair again, but I pull away once more. You won't let me. Nope. Let me. Undeterred, Noletta tries to put the flower in my hair again. Noletta can be quite stubborn at times, but I just don't feel like letting her have her way. The last remaining flower. Okay, fine. With a shrug, I stop moving and keep still. But just as she's about to thread the stem through my hair, I pluck it out of her hand, reaching up and setting it upon her snow-white tress and head instead. Putting a finger to her lips, I stick my tongue out at her. Nah. Gotcha! I smile and wink triumphantly. Uh-oh, she looks pretty upset. A pale white flower suits you far more than me anyways. After puzzling over my words for a moment, Noletta nods quietly to herself. I need to find a flower that suits Addie. How sad. It seems there aren't any flowers left around ready for picking. I'm going ahead. Wait, Triss still needs help carrying his stuff. But Noletta doesn't seem to hear. Addie, Kalia, would one of you lend us a hand? Exchanging a glance with me, Kalia dangles her empty sleeves with a shrug before skipping off ahead. This calls for an immediate evasive action. You got this, big sis Lorona. Snapping my index fingers at her, I turn on my heels and bolt. Hey! Don't only pull the big sis card when it's convenient. Upon catching up to Kalia's side, I slow to a stroll. As if in agreement that we had witnessed nothing, the two of us mosey along in silent solidarity. The Though I have to say, it's pretty funny how good of a mood Noletta's simple act has put Kalia in. You know, it's not just Noletta. Bending forward to get a good angle on her face, I gaze into Kalia's eyes. I care about you, too. What? Shut up. I'm not stupid. You're just trying to tease me again like you always do. You're such a little troll. How dare you? I'm a sweet young girl. Still, though, I wonder why this always seems to happen. Up ahead, Noletta was poking through the bushes in search of flowers. Far behind, Lorena and Triss were floundering around under the weight of their cargo. Under the promise of budding trees, we once again failed to travel to school as a proper group of 5. Despite our morning antics, we somehow managed to arrive at school early. Upon entering one classroom, building an array of empty desks meets us, save for one. Amidst the illuminating light of early morning, she was there. A young woman whose presence held a mysterious allure to it. With immaculate form and immaculate posture, she sat unmoving at one of the far side desks. Good morning, Erwina. Hey, Erwina. Hello, Addie. Kalia. Along her head, in our direction, Erwina returns our greeting with a vague nod. While I knew Erwina was the oldest student at our school, it was difficult to get a good read on her age with how her eyes were always bandaged over. A flower that suits Addie. I couldn't find one. We made it. Noletta, Lorena, and Tristan as well. As if taking his cue, Triss summarily kneels over and kisses the ground. Don't mind him. That's just Triss being the usual drama queen. I see. Something felt different about Erwina today. She felt absent-minded, her responses subdued, lacking their usual self-possessed weight. Is something wrong, Erwina? Now that I think about it, wasn't it odd that she was sitting back here at the back row desk? Feel free to tell us about it. I love to meddle, you know. You're quite perceptive, aren't you, Addie? With a light chuckle, Erwina traces her fingers across the surface of her desk before her. It's true that I have something on my mind. As you may know, none of these desks in the back row are currently in use. Everyone occupies some spot in the world in terms of space and resources. However, it is not as though the school is lacking in those. Even though the possibility of filling these vacancies exists, it remains unrealized. Erwina's idle hand motions come to a stop, her voice taking on a mysterious tone. It's a strange feeling. This feeling that where someone could be, there is no one. Where someone could be, there is no one. Erwina's words conjure a certain image in my mind's eye. An image of her sitting here, lost in thought, all alone, thinking perhaps of the absent warmth of someone who would have been here with us today had the cards fallen differently. Sorry, Erwina, but there might be less space in this school than you think. If you look in the desks back here, you'll find they're all stuffed to the brim with books. Seems like the hoard of some hopeless bibliophile. So yeah, we might not actually have any room for new students. The heck? If we don't get any new classmates because Addie's such a bookworm, I'm gonna be mad. At least my books don't sell me out. I suppose it would get rather cramped given how lively it already gets around here. I will probably have to report the troublemaker using school property without permission, though. Take me away, officer. I jest, of course. Schools are for learning, after all. It is senseless to hit a hen for laying eggs. Now that I think of it, though, the 5 of you are here quite early today. That's right. We're really pumped for today's competition. Is Mr. Narao not here yet? It appears Larona's attempts to resuscitate her fallen comrade have not been bearing fruit. Worry not. Father will be arriving shortly. That's right. Though a student in name, it was more accurate to say that Erwin taught alongside her father, if anything. Long have I waited the day my students arrive early. Such is their enthusiasm to learn. Mr. Narao, an eccentric individual who had constructed this school using his own fortune in the wake of a fire of collapse. The fact that he even personally taught was a testament to his dedication to the next generation, quote unquote. I still remember his baffling self-introduction upon meeting everyone at the beginning of the school year. Narao can be interpreted to mean white wings of learning. If it's difficult for you to understand, you may refer to me as Mr. Narao for now. Just like on that first day, our enigmatic teacher was casually toting around a gargantuan phallus. I doubt anyone has my morning lark over here, but beat in terms of getting up at god-awful hours, though. Parting with one's bedsheets isn't a Herculean ordeal for everyone, Mr. Night Owl. Smiling wryly, Erwin arises to assist Mr. Narao with unpacking the phallus's contents. Though she generally relies on a retractable rod to navigate, I've noticed that sometimes she just doesn't seem to need it. I wonder how she does it. That thing sure is living up to its reputation as a bottomless black hole, isn't it? We watch as one phallus palpably shrinks as it is released from its bulging payload. Is this for the construction competition? What looked like a disassembled table and the components of a board game had been laid out before us. Ah, about that. I've decided to postpone the bridge building contest until tomorrow. We will be having a lecture on the history of Socratrine instead, with these materials serving as a visual aid. No, it can't be true. It was all in vain. It was all in vain. Bleh. Letting out a strange cry, Lorona sinks to the ground with a soft thwomp. The floor seemed to be quite the popular resting spot today. Addie, I don't have to use your materials. Though she probably means to say something along the lines of, it's good I don't have to impose on you again, I decide to misinterpret it. I see. I knew this day would come. You've finally grown sick and tired of me and my shoddy materials. I understand, Noletta. I'm just not good enough for you anymore. Even then, I never imagined it would hurt this much to get discarded and forgotten. Wiping at my eyes, I sniffle and lower my gaze. It's not like I want you to use my materials or anything. Addie, I'll use your materials, so don't be sad. She looked like she was about to cry. There were actually tears in her eyes. You're so devoted, Noletta. Unable to contain myself, I giggle as I reach up to pinch her on the cheek. She makes some weird noises, but doesn't try to resist as I play with her face. We will wait for several more students to arrive before commencing class. Our class had around 12 regular students in total. Since it had such a wide age range, lessons could fluctuate from learning basic language one day to advanced science the next. Fortunately, the school was well equipped for dealing with its unique circumstances. I guess that's one of the perks of being funded by a wealthy teacher. Those of us still standing kill some time, poking at Lorona and Triss before class finally begins. Now then, without further ado, let us begin the lecture on Socratrine's history. The entire class was gathered around what could only be described as an oversized board game. Mr. Norrell has always had an unorthodox style of teaching. Conventional teaching tends to lean towards fixed methods and rote memorization. But Mr. Norrell was fond of something he called divergent thinking. As much as he tries to dress it up, though, I'm pretty sure he just gets bored easily. Is this a map of Sakutrine? Indeed, it's far from accurate in terms of scale, but this board game has been laid out to simulate Sakutrine's basic layout. Overall, Sakutrine can be divided broadly into 5 areas. What is that word?
Oh, I looked it up. I didn't find the definition.
Shiorn Terra?
Yeah.
Or Kion Terra? Shiorn Terra Plains, the urban core, the greater and lower Padavelt Highlands, and the muted forest of the east. With a wave of his pointing stick, Mr. Norrell redirects our attention to the blank boundary surrounding the hexes. One of Sakutrine's most distinguishing features is a dense wall of unavigable mist. Mr. Norrell, what are the board game pieces supposed to be? You can think of the boxes as population concentration indicators and the cylinders as major industrial centers. The big piece in the center represents the heart of Sakutrine's infrastructure, the capital city of Socotra. Addie, where do we live? Probably around here somewhere. As for the school, it's likely near here. Addie, maps are really amazing. What do you mean? They show the world like you're high in the sky, even though nobody's been in the sky before. That's not true. I've been in the sky before, you know. Really? Wow. You shouldn't believe everything Addie says, Noletta. This is in the year 195. I was born in 194. That is correct. The current board state reflects the state of Sakutrines 15 years ago, when it was ruled by the old aristocracy. Sakutrine was in the process of recovering from a period of famine and plague when the Master's Revolution occurred. The Master's Revolution was when people from the unknown lands came, right? Yes. Sakutrine had long been aware of the existence of the unknown lands from artifacts that washed up on Evik's northern banks. However, 195 marked the first time that actual people came from beyond the mist. In 195, a convoy of people describing themselves as refugees from a devastated land sailed down the river. Eviget had made contact with Sakutrine for the first time. Though the old aristocracy welcomed the refugees at first, they eventually began to suspect that the convoy would attempt a coup. Mustering all of Sakutrine's military might, the old aristocracy attempted to preemptively capture the refugees. However, they were soundly routed by the refugees' convoy's elite combat unit, the Lost Children. In what came to be known as the Master's Revolution, the old aristocracy was overthrown and the leader of the Lost Children and refugee convoy, the Verloren Master, was installed as Sakutrine's sovereign ruler. Is it true? Is it true that Verloren Master was a girl? The Verloren Master was indeed a female, though it would be more accurate to call her a woman than a girl. I heard she was a genius swordsmaster that took down a squad of Sakutrine's finest all by herself. There are rumors her unit annihilated entire armies back when she was in the Unknown Lands. Sounds like she was pretty good at bashing heads. But was the Verloren Master a good ruler? In regards to that, let us jump ahead to the year 200. Mr. Narao takes the opportunity to make adjustments to the board before continuing. The 5 years that followed the Master's Revolution are often considered a golden age in Socratronian history. Drawing from the advanced technology, expertise, and knowledge the refugee convoy brought with them, Socratrine underwent a period of rapid innovation and reform. Mortality rates plummeted as contemporary medical science made its debut, and birth rates skyrocketed as socioeconomic living standards improved. However, that all came to a stop when the fire of collapse happened. A solemn silence took over the room as Mr. Narao set about making major modifications to the board. I had been born shortly after the fire of collapse, so I had no memories of the event. But there was no doubt it had been a dark time in Socratrine's history. In August of 200, for reasons that are not known, the shroud of the mist that usually only surrounds Socratrine's borders warped and covered the sky. Prismatic flames of unknown properties rained down from the mist, laying waste to major swaths of Socratrine's landscape. The area below Evigat's southern banks suffered serious damage in particular, transforming into unrecognizable wasteland. Look at all the boxes that disappeared. I remember if you got burned by that rainbow fire, you had to get special treatment or else. The refugees of 195 had experienced a similar disaster in the unknown lands, so they were able to provide limited care. But there were too many victims to avoid a great loss of life. The fire of collapse did not mark the end of 200, though. In 195, the Verloren Master had taken on a single Socratini pupil, following her rise to power. Shortly after the fire of collapse, the pupil challenged the Verloren Master to a single combat, defeating her and claiming the title of Socratrine's sovereign ruler as his own. He continues to rule Socratine to this day. We know him as Lord Cecil Cotard. Addie, that's your daddy, right? Addie, that's your daddy. Addie, that's your daddy.
Nope.
Yep, that's my pops, all right. He must have been crazy strong to defeat the Verloren Master. Always wondered what kind of relationship Papa had with his master. Just don't understand for what reason did Papa feel compelled to usurp the Verloren Master. Unfortunately, there's not much insight I can offer on that matter. It is true, though, that Lord Cotard has largely carried on his master's legacy in terms of policy. That just made things more confusing. The pieces simply weren't lining up. Naturally, there were some that opposed Lord Cotard's succession, unconvinced that the inexperienced young Cotard could lead Socratrines in its weakened state. The remnants of the old aristocracy took the opportunity to attempt an uprising. However, having also inherited leadership of the lost children, Lord Cotard crushed the uprising, scattering his opposition and consolidating his rule. It is now at last that we arrive at the current day of 210. Socratrine's reconstruction has been a slow and steady process, but it has been helped along by several unexpected boons. Though I mentioned before how the fire of collapse had mysterious properties, one particularly unusual effect it's had can be observed in what used to be the southern wastelands. It is believed that the ashes of the rainbow fire nourished the soils somehow, as the land has recovered at an alarming rate, blooming into what we know as Evigat's Garden. It's scary how pretty that place is. Many townspeople avoid it because they're afraid of the unfamiliar types of flowers that blossom there. In any case, that concludes my lecture. Erwino will now take over for any questions that you may have. Passing the helm to Erwina, Mr. Narao retreats to his desk for a breather. I've been curious about this for a while, but don't the refugees from the unknown lands have a name for the place that they come from? That is a delicate topic. It is something of a taboo for the refugees of 195 to speak the name of their homeland. It is believed that for many of them, the name of their homeland is synonymous with atrocity. As such, they are often simply referred to as ULs. In that case, what about the Verloren Master? What was her name before she assumed her title? The Verloren Master is a big enigma even today. Her real name is likely something only members of the Lost Children know. I see. Perhaps I should ask Papa or Mr. Demolier sometime. That's all the questions I have for now. Surrendering the floor to the other students, I wander over to the classroom windows, lost in thought. Socratrine's closed world dilemma. There has only been one recorded instance of anyone successfully traversing the boundary of the mist that encircles Socratrine's borders. The Verloren Master. How did she lead the refugee convoy to Socratrine? I couldn't help but feel it was a key piece to the puzzle. A puzzle that I've yearned to solve for as long as I can remember. Not enough. It's still not enough. When I come back to myself, I find the class in the midst of a lunch break. Wandering over to the usual group's island of desks, I met with a pleasant surprise. Erwina had pulled her desk over, as well as bringing up our account, up to a total of 6. Erwina usually eats with her father at this instance, but it seemed our capricious teacher was taking a nap, having gobbling up his lunch during the Q&A session. I take my seat amidst an already continuing conversation. Dasuritu mi in the twisha arra churnderanga tewa fudisumantu. I see. Are you and Tris planning to do anything special for your 12th birthday? Newfound respect wells up inside me at Erwina's ability to comprehend Kalia's incoherent gabbling. Kalia wasn't very fond of being fed by other people as such. It was not common for unintelligible garbling to leave her mouth as she went about stuffing her lunch with her face. Even after the Second Great Food War, may the casualties of that dark time rest in peace, we only ever gained the right to clean her face after a meal. Well, not as animated as Kalia. Watching Erwina eat was also an interesting experience. The manner in which she confirmed the position of her lunchbox, selected an article of food by its relative remaining proportion, and brought it levelly to her mouth was like clockwork. I'm not sure. Maybe we'll visit if it gets started. Geez, Kalia, don't I always tell you not to talk with your mouth full? Evigit's garden, though, huh? That's a wonderful spot to go for your birthday. Could it somehow be I'm the abnormal one for having no clue what Kalia's saying? As she alternates between chastisement and casual conversation, Lorona picks out a tasty-looking morsel from Tristan's lunchbox. I sense the 5 of us always share our lunch together. We had a habit of taking from each other without restraint. It was something we did without even thinking about it. So it wasn't hard to understand why our guest Erwina froze in shock when her spoon suddenly encountered Tristan's fork scrounging around in her lunchbox. Huh? What? What are you doing, Tris? Don't you want parking too in Erwina's lunch without the permission? A brutal kick from Kalia to some unidentified location under the desk causes Tris to spray a mouthful of his lunch all over an unfortunate Lorona. What's happening? You'll have to forgive us, Erwina. We're all accustomed to sharing our food with each other. I guess Tris couldn't resist upon seeing how tasty our food looked. Ah, is that so? Erwina pauses for a second as she considers my words. In that case, allow me to sample what you've brought as well. A well-meaning smile rises to her lips. She pushes her lunchbox forward, signaling it's fine to take from her. At her invitation, the five of us, who had always been curious about the palate of the rich, eagerly dig in. Wow, it's so delicious. I didn't know you were such a good chef, Erwina. Hey, Tris, stop stuffing yourself and give me some of that bourgeois goodie. Naturally, Kalia didn't seem to have any issue accepting aid when it came to jacking the best parts of a meal. Come on, Aletta, open up. You can't just eat nothing but pasta all day. Maybe you can. Say ah. I poke at Noletta's mouth with a spoonful of Erwina's lunch until she reluctantly parts her lips. Get this child to eat something other than pasta could often be quite a struggle. After ensuring that Noletta would be safe from malnutrition for another day, I have a sample of my own. So this was what Erwina ate. Though it was certainly tasty, something seemed a bit off about it. Just to clarify, I didn't make any of this. It gets bigger, chaotic when I'm in the kitchen. As if recalling a silly memory, Erwina shakes her head. Of course, Father didn't make it either. With measured movements, Erwina probes through the lunchboxes we had placed in front of her for easy access. How do you fancy the dishes of the commoners, my lady? Refreshingly proletarian, if I may say. Why, I simply must have more. I really am quite fond of your lunches, though. How do I describe it? It feels like they were somehow made with warmth. I much prefer them to my own. Indeed. Though the taste was on point, somehow Erwina's lunch didn't feel very filling. It was strange. I'm glad you like it. Feel free to eat again with us anytime. If you ever find your pops snoozing through lunch again, you're welcome to hang with the cool kids. Me wish a twist for mustache. Meanwhile, the Larit twins try to play it cool as they rapidly clean Erwina's lunchbox of its contents. You have my gratitude. Let us rendezvous in the future again sometime. The simple fact of sharing one's food with others makes it tastier after all. Can't wait till tomorrow though. Me and Tris spent all night yesterday studying up on bridges. There's no way we'll lose. Perhaps it was meant to be a declaration of resolve or something of the sort. But with how her face was innocently smeared with food, she looked more like a bib, toting toddler than a bold competitor. Unable to stomach the yucky sight, Tristan immediately butts in and starts wiping Kalia down with a handkerchief. Jeez, Tris, can't you read the atmosphere? Hey. Q-Q-T-T. Atmosphere, I can read it. Forget what I said about Erwina. We're not cool kids at all. We're pretty lame, actually. Boop, boop, boop. Erwina listens to the rest of us break out into laughter. Ha 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 ha. She probably didn't fully understand what was going on, but smiles warmly at the good cheer that we surround her with. Meals really are the best when shared with the company of others. Oh, hasn't had a lunch break before now. Yes, but it appears that Mr. Narao has more pressing obligations to attend to. Our dedicated school teacher was currently in the process of revising today's lesson plans with his face drool. He fell asleep again. How many times must he be punished before he learns his lesson? With a grin that proves he's up to no good, Tris taps on Kalia's shoulder and gestures shadily at Mr. Narao's defense figure. Comprehending his intentions with ease, Kalia snickers impishly. Hey, Erwina, would you turn a blind eye if we decided to play a prank on your dad? I suppose it can't be helped. Just don't let things get too out of hand. Alright, good. So Erwin is in. What should we do now, though? The Ritz repertoire of pranks was quite expensive, but their usual antics weren't going to cut it. If they wanted to do something, Erwina would have to escape. Scanning the room for ideas, my eyes catch on Loletta as she plays around with Susie, a younger classmate. The little was teasing Loletta in the saccharine voice as she floated a balloon in the outreach. The scales have fallen from my eyes. Well, give him a helium voice. With a grand gesture, I direct everyone's attention to the enlightening scene before us. I am the highest form of approval. Triss spontaneously produces white cats. Oh, jeez. I think I'm going to save here. In the highest form of approval, Triss spontaneously produces a white cat from somewhere and begins stroking it like an evil mastermind. I'm really feline it. Firing off a clawful pun, Kalia and Triss set off to procure a balloon. Father with helium voice, I cannot say the prospect is without appeal. And this is where I'm going to save, guys. If you enjoyed this, remember to hit that subscribe button if you're watching on YouTube. Hit follow if you're watching on Twitch. And as always, play like it's your last day. And I will catch you on the next Rock Plays. Peace out, guys.